Okay, welcome everyone. Today is Monday, July the 1st. It's the Board of Public Works and Safety. We are streaming this meeting live through City of Madison YouTube channel. You can watch it live or view it later. Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Carl Eaglin. Rob Courtney.
Here.
Dave Carlo.
Here.
Great. Board, have you had an opportunity to look at the minutes from the last meeting? So, June 17th, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the June 17th meeting as printed.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to claims.
Mayor, had an opportunity to review the claims. Today we have 22 pages of claims totaling $456,026.47. And I'll make a motion that the claims be approved as submitted.
I'll second David's motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. No adjustments. Moving on to new business. We are going to table Resolution 2024-31B. It's been requested by the applicant. And we'll move on to Resolution 2024-32B. Clerk, if you wouldn't mind picking up there.
Okay, so.
Might want to just give you attention on the microphone there.
Yes. Resolution 2024-32B, a resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, affirming existing parking regulations for transient merchants and establishing a special permit to occupy certain public areas. Whereas pursuant to the City of Madison Code of Ordinances, Chapter 70, Traffic Regulations, and Chapter 71, Parking Regulations, the Board of Public Works and Safety shall have the authority to restrict traffic and/or control parking on any city street, alley, thoroughfare, or other public place, respectively, when it is deemed to be in the public interest. Whereas the growth and popularity of mobile vendors, also known as transient merchants, and more commonly known as mobile food trucks, has prompted the need to affirm existing regulations that minimize environmental disturbance of public spaces and promote the health, safety, and public welfare of the City of Madison citizens and visitors. Whereas Section 70.21, Parking and Traffic Regulations, Ordinance 1998-10, dated 8/1898, states that a person A parks a motor vehicle, a motorcycle, or a motorized bicycle in a manner other than in substantial compliance with the general parking scheme as indicated by lines or other markings on the surface of the parking area, including but not limited to parking in a no parking zone or other area clearly not intended for parking, parking in a crosswalk, parking on a sidewalk, or parking in such a manner as to occupy all or parts of substantially more than one parking space, commits a violation of this subchapter, which shall be enforced by any police officer of the city. Whereas it has become necessary for the Board of Public Works and Safety to take action regarding mobile food trucks and where they are located to ensure that the parking regulations are adhered to, and to provide safety and consistent traffic flow for the citizens of Madison and visitors. Therefore, the Board of Public Works and Safety establishes the restrictions on the location of the transient merchants and mobile food trucks, and henceforth, the operator of such shall apply for a permit from the Board of Public Works and Safety in order to locate any public street within the boundary of Broadway Street to the west, Jefferson Street to the east, 3rd Street to the north, and 2nd Street to the south, including any street, lot, alley, or other public space within this border. The permit is in addition to the license and regulations as currently required by the city ordinances governing peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. This requirement does not apply to transient merchants of food trucks located in the footprint of streets closed or otherwise restricted as approved by the Public Works and Safety. Now therefore this resolution shall become immediately effective upon adoption by the Board of Public Works and Safety, signature of the mayor, enrollment in the book of resolutions, and publication of notice as required by law. Any resolution in conflict with this resolution is hereby repealed.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I'll give a little background. 1958, I'll take you back in time a little bit. The city of Madison adopted traffic and parking regulations. And they have not been amended very frequently, but the last time they were amended in 1998. But in 1958, and then, as I said, up to 1998, those parking regulations essentially established a structure for City of Madison's parking on its public streets. And the parking, as defined in the existing ordinance, is for vehicles who are visiting our merchants and needing to park in these public spaces. There's a emerging trend with food trucks. And the last time our peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants ordinance was updated was about 12 years ago. We had one prior to that, but there was an amendment, like I said, about 12 years ago. Often what happens is emerging trends happen a lot quicker than public policy. So we're now finding ourselves at a juncture where we need to put some regulations around where food trucks and transient merchants can locate in the interest of public safety. And what I mean by that is, as recent as 4 years ago, this 4-lane highway was a state highway. Now, it's still a 4-lane highway. It's just regulated by the city of Madison now and not the state of Indiana. We would have never had food trucks on Main Street at the pace that we do now when it was a state highway. We've also grown a lot with regards to our traffic coming through downtown, intentionally, because so much investment and positive changes with the community are happening. But it's still an extremely busy corridor. In fact, just one stat to give you, over the course of 1 year alone, from I believe July of last year to July of this year, we've had nearly 5 million people pass this intersection. People in cars and on foot, right? So this is a very, very busy corridor, and we've seen with that lots of safety issues. We have distracted driving, we have speeding, we have visibility issues, we have people who have literally been injured in our crosswalks. The street itself has not been modernized in probably, 50 to 75 years. So there's a lot of concern for safety in this particular corridor, all the way from the east end to the west end. What we're trying to do today with this is just say, let's press the pause button on the busiest corridor, because it's still a 4-lane highway between Jefferson and Broadway. Then it starts curtailing and calming when you get to the east end, or when you get to the west end. We're doing some traffic calming plans on the east end, but we really have to take a step back and figure out how we are going to accommodate, not just the vehicles, not just the hundreds of thousands of pedestrians, not just the golf carts crossing, not just the people on bicycles, but now, transient merchants, aka food trucks, in this really busy corridor. So there is a significant safety concern, and there's a lot of environmental issues that food trucks impact this corridor. So part of the City of Madison's new projects committee, which is myself, Hannah Fagan, and 3 city councilmen, we're now looking at updating the peddlers transient merchant ordinance so that it can be modernized, deal with this phenomena we all enjoy and love, but also do it in a responsible and in a current way. That's the purpose of starting this whole process. It's a couple years overdue, but as I said, emerging trends happen a lot faster than emerging policy. Generally, policy is reacting to a situation that's been created, but with regards to trends, they happen so much quicker. That's the background for this. Now, I do want to emphasize, there's already a statute and an ordinance in place that restricts this type of parking all over the city of Madison. What we're doing is creating an opportunity here to do it more responsibly, but also plan for a better experience, do it safely, but accommodate the fact that we know that food trucks want to be in this corridor as well as other public streets, which is why we had defined the most important corridor where the heaviest traffic is, where the heaviest pedestrian traffic is too. So I'll pause there, let either one of my members of the Board of Public Works and Safety make a remark, and then we can open up to public comment if there is any.
I know that if I was
Turn it here.
a owner of a business on Main Street and I was selling hamburgers, hot dogs, donuts, and paying taxes and all the upkeep of keeping the building there, it would bother me a lot to see someone pull up in front of my business with no permit and just starting doing the same business I'm doing. That would bother me quite a bit.
Uh,
Dave, any remarks before we open up to public comment?
Mayor, I agree with
Yeah.
your remarks. I agree with Carl. I think the owners of the brick and mortar restaurants, they need some protection. They pay property taxes, upkeep of their buildings and their restaurants, and we're, like the mayor said, we already have ordinances on the books. This pretty much just redefines that maybe the ordinance hasn't been followed the way it should have been in the past. So this just kind of reinforces the ordinance that's already there, so.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many considerations. I went through a few of them, but happy to respond to any public comment. If anybody here would like to address the Board of Public Works and Safety, please come to the podium, name and address, please, and make your statement.
Hi, I'm Jody Stevenson. My business address is 409 West Main, and I live at 163 Autumnwood Court, and this is totally not planned, but I just feel like your comments just now seem very petty to me about brick and mortar, paying property taxes. It's like a competition thing. That just seems very petty to me. The safety issue, we should be more concerned about the semis coming through downtown and the golf carts than food trucks. I'm not sure what like food trucks safety issues are, but I see at my business every single day the semis just flying by on Main Street. And I know that the police are trying, they're trying to stop them, but if we're really so concerned about it, we should maybe, I don't know what it is. The signage up there, their GPS, or what, but, I have a business, I have a boutique. I welcome competition. I'm not worried about what anybody else is doing. I'm not worried about their hours, their specials, what they carry in their store. I mean, the competition thing, that really does kind of infuriate me. I just don't get that. Competition is a good thing. I love our food trucks. I think it should be my choice. If I decide to go and have a nice sit-down dinner somewhere, I'll decide that. If I want to just go to a food truck and pick something up and go and eat down on the river or whatever, we can decide that. I just don't see the competition thing.
Well, that was just one of the considerations, but let me address the semis. Yes, there are still truck drivers who ignore our ordinance with regards to heavy trucks on Main Street, but we went through a similar process with them about 4 years ago. There was probably several thousands of heavy overweight trucks doing exactly what you just described, coming down Main Street every month. And we've curtailed probably 95% of that. Now it's occasionally they leak through. It's not just a matter of business going from, the power plant to Trimble County. So, but those are still concerns, and, keep in mind, these are all safety issues, right? And the semis are a problem.
Yeah, because I see them every day.
And it's been curtailed by 95%. You're still seeing some ignore the 3 miles of signs coming into town, and they get into town, they have nowhere else to go. But I agree with you. We have enormous traffic problems all across the city. Enormous ones. And what we can't do is exacerbate the safety issue. So this is all about public safety, even though there are many other things to consider. Thank you, Jody.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. You're welcome.
I might say that living on Main Street myself, I see the traffic officer pull over a lot of semis during the day.
Yeah.
And maybe some of the semis that you're seeing pass your business, maybe they have already been cited and given a citation, but they're on their way, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
they
and
give it a citation, then they still got to get out of town.
Well, and I'll mention too
So-
that I think there's also maybe some more awareness relative to the topic of semis, and let me clarify that here. Not all semi trucks are restricted off of Main Street. We made specific accommodations for local deliveries, municipal trucks, agriculture. We made accommodations for those trucks that are here for a specific purpose. It was the pass-through traffic that was the intent, because it was just passing through. And then our weight limit is 10 tons. So if they're under 10 tons, they're legal. So it's not a restriction on every truck that you might see on Main Street. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit. We have a consolidated grain barge transfer right downtown here. And so often you'll see agricultural trucks coming through to unload their grain onto the barge. So there's a number of reasons why you might see semis on here, but we do have an officer on Main Street most days of the week specifically checking for those kinds of things, and it's made a big difference.
Good morning. My name is Isa Center. That's Isacenter. My husband Chuck here. We are the owners of Pacalana's Poke Wagon. That's Pakalana apostrophe S. Poke, second word Poke, third word wagon. Thanks for having us here today. We were just made aware of the subject matter in this meeting yesterday evening. I'm going to try to read a couple of questions, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but if someone can direct me on where to go from here, that'd be greatly appreciated. One, what criteria will be used to allow for permits, and at what cost, and what is the protocol to require or to request the permit? Excuse me. Two, what safety issues or environmental issues are there involving the food trucks, which I know, Bob, you went ahead and addressed some of those. I am confused on what the safety issues and environmental issues would be within those boundaries versus the west side of town or the east side of Jefferson Street, what the difference would be there. Excuse me. Has any of these issues been brought to the specific food truck attention? The food truck owners, and tripping over things or safety hazards. I don't think any of the food trucks have been addressed and corrected to fix those issues. Next question. If there are events held or retail, small businesses invite us to set up on Main Street, it's to help generate their revenue within the city limits. I don't think it's ever been an issue where we've just pulled up and parked just because. It has been brought to our attention from other brick and mortars that specific days when we do park in front of them, whether it's selling the same food or different foods, for our instance, I can't speak for everyone else, but for our instance, we've seen it drive more revenue for specific brick and mortars, which is nice to see because we complement each other very well.
Just a point on what you said earlier, sir,
Here.
about the hamburgers and hot dogs. Every restaurant in this town basically serve the same menu. Us pulling up, it's no different than what they're serving. And what do you serve? We serve poke bowls. You're not gonna find it anywhere. You don't even know what poke bowl is, right? No, I don't. So you're not gonna offend anybody on Main Street? Okay.
You're making me hungry, Chuck. I'm just saying.
Basically, what we're saying is, it's free enterprise. Everybody in America should have the right to work how they want. We pay taxes on our food truck. We pay upgrades on them. Everything we do, same as a brick and mortar. I could go get a building right now, start a restaurant. I chose not to because I don't want the overhead. If the food truck, because it makes people do have overhead. And they depend on the business that walks in.
I do too.
And they walk.
So what he's saying is we chose not to have it overhead where the brick and mortar allowed
Because
that.
of free enterprise.
So,
Ma'am,
So somebody's going
could you
to.
turn your microphone on,
Oh.
please?
oh,
There we go.
maybe because
Red
I
light.
touched it. Sorry, guys.
We're very nervous, our first.
Yeah. Okay. So next, another question I have. Sorry. We have commitments already made for some of the small businesses within those boundaries for the rest of the year, and I'd like to know how to address those. So I'm hoping the permit request doesn't take very long.
And will we be denied on that permanent request?
No, like, I think we need to know
How often will the deny rate be versus the approval rate?
what the criteria is in order for it to be approved. We'd like to try to address those issues if there are any that we're not already following. And I think,
And then, sorry, going back to the parking, all these vehicles that are parking, they're all manufactured, they're up to code. They're not allowed to sell them in the United States. If they're not, the parking stalls, hang on, talk with my hands. Minimum length, you guys look like 12 feet out there. The standard is 19, across the United States. So there's just other variances that go into effect of what you guys are doing to keep us from on that Main Street.
Do you have a portable generator that you use
we do.
Attached to the vehicle.
attached to the vehicle?
Yes,
So
sir.
what is what's your question about the portable generator?
I was asking you, do you use a portable generator?
We do use a portable generator, and it does attach length to our vehicle.
Okay.
So what he's addressing is the issue that he thinks that we think that the parking stall probably
How-
wouldn't even
how
fit a pickup
noisy?
truck.
How noisy is your generator?
Right.
Great question.
All right,
So those are to a standard. I did research on them.
Okay.
They are different decibel levels at certain feet, but they're all addressed to where you can listen to them all day long per manufacturer without having hearing loss.
okay. So, cause in Madison, as you well know, if you're sitting outside a restaurant and the truck goes by, motorcycle goes by, it seems to echo that decibel.
I
Right.
agree with you. I agree with
Right.
you.
And that's a
But
concern.
that's a problem we can address
And
not
fix.
get kicked off Main Street, but address the problem and
To
get
fix it,
quieter generator.
yeah. So those are the things that are our concerns, that it kind of strikes a little bit of a nerve because we are also small business owners and we also try to support our families just as well as the brick and mortars. And we do go to these businesses and we support all of them. And I think Jody does have a good point that if they choose to go to a restaurant, they're gonna go to a restaurant. If they choose to eat at a food truck, they're gonna go to a food truck. And I think it all complements each other very well. I was very comfortable when Bob was addressing the whole reason why we're here today, and until the gentleman on the side has suggested that it's an issue with the brick and mortars. So is it a brick and mortar issue, or is it safety and environmental issue, or is it both? Because nothing's mentioned in the meetings regarding the brick and mortars.
It's safety and environmental. Not to say that there's not other impacts too, but
Sure,
just to put in context again what we're talking about here. If you all are asking me, don't enforce that ordinance that's been in place, right?
right.
That's one thing.
If
That's
there
a-
is one, you address it
then
and you
that
enforce
should
it.
come to city council and say, waive or repeal that ordinance that's been here since, 1958, and to address yours, Chuck, which is free enterprise is great, but there's always guardrails around everything that we do.
And variance, yes, sir.
We've experienced everything down here. And what I mean by that is we've experienced issues with visibility, noise, sanitation, wires across the sidewalk. And I can't even tell sometimes if they've got a permit. But to answer your other question, which is what's already in place. We're not changing anything. We're bringing it to your attention that this food truck community is evolving, and it's got to somehow get aligned with our public policy.
Right.
And that's why often we find ourselves, unfortunately, it's me, dusting off an ordinance that was done 15, 25 years ago or longer and saying, now it's time to refresh that. We need some more public input
Right.
to make sure that we're addressing it. But until then, let's press the pause button. And notice we didn't say everywhere,
Right.
right? So I
Yeah,
think
and that's
east-
appreciated.
East versus west, east end versus west end are very different than your 4-lane highway that's between Jefferson Street and Broadway. It's very, very different. And again, I'll point out we've had almost 5 million cars and people right here in front of City Hall just in the last year alone. Now that makes it attractive for our business community, but and maybe our chief of police can talk about the safety elements of it. Makes it really challenging. And we've had multiple crosswalk hazards right here in front of City Hall.
Because of food trucks?
But no, I'm just saying because of all the traffic that's happening.
Okay, 'cause
And
of the congestion?
And then when you throw in another element, right, that just elevates the risk a little bit more.
Okay.
If this was all a pedestrian corridor, food trucks wouldn't be a problem because you wouldn't have to worry about visibility.
Right.
But you've got people going across, not at crosswalks, but mid-block, there's Pokeball, and I'll be the first one to run to get me a Pokeball when you're down here, as you know.
Yeah.
But there's all those kinds of things. All we're saying is, we gotta take a step back and
Yeah.
deal with this pragmatically and let our policies catch up to what our emerging trends are.
I agree. I think if I was
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
in that area and there are safety issues, one, I want to thank you guys for your time, but one, I would suggest maybe addressing those issues at the time, and that would be fantastic. That way we can fix them and something cannot happen
And
within
can I
that time.
intervene there?
Sure.
Addressing it would be, you're not allowed here,
Right.
because that's what the statute says.
Right. And,
right.
and I get that.
And we haven't done that, but
Right.
and everybody knows me, I'm around town all the time, and I'm seeing it all, and I'm like, all right, now I finally have to because, and I'm gonna point it out to the community isn't addressing this.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to start the dialogue, and that's all we're doing here.
Right.
We're starting the dialogue, which is, okay, before we get 20 trucks down here at one time, or
Sure.
before someone gets killed, or before there's a fire that we can't respond to properly, and I'm sitting next to 2 firefighters, let's think about what we're doing and if there's a better way to do it.
Right.
That's-
I agree.
Just trying to be proactive.
Yes.
Being proactive.
Right. And lastly, I'd like to close, if there are 5 million people coming through that area, there's a lot of business to go around to the brick and mortars and food trucks.
Yeah. And then, yes,
Yeah.
you're right there, which is, we have, the best Main Street in America.
Yep.
But I want to address the other thing, which is the permitting process. The other thing that's already been in existence is, if someone wants to close down a street, close down a part of a street, or reserve parking spaces,
They request a
they
permit.
request it right here.
Yes, sir.
That's
Understand.
already in place.
And that's great. That's
All we're
great.
saying is, let's put some guardrails around something that is wonderful, but let's keep it wonderful and safe and elevate the experience for
Sure.
everyone.
I'm hoping just consideration for the small businesses that's on that area within those boundaries, that we are able to continue to support them outside of just going in and purchasing.
Okay.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Thanks, Susan.
Hi, I'm Scott Piles, Donut Envy. Me and my wife
Scott.
own it. We live at 2323 Allen Street.
Did you say
here in-
Piles? I'm sorry.
Piles,
Piles,
P-Y-L-E-S, I'm sorry. I'm not good at this stuff, so
Yeah.
I apologize, guys. What concerns me is the resolution. Resolution's not pushing a pause button. Resolutions are absolute. And you're talking about wanting to have open dialogue and discussion about things, but we have no representation. So that's not an open discussion. That's one-sided. So don't we think that it's just better to actually pause for a minute? And let's just keep everything where it is. Let's talk about it. Let's, talk to the food trucks. Let's talk to the business owners. Let's talk to the council. Let's all start talking about this. Some people know me, some people don't. I grew up here. My mom and dad, Vernon and Shirley Piles, I grew up here. I left for many years and came back. And that was one of my dreams, was to own a business here, me and my wife. And, I don't know why it ever think it was just as easy as opening a food truck in Madison. You know, we've heard it all. Yeah, we're a franchise. I sold franchises for a living. My wife owned a franchise in St. Louis, very successful. We brought a franchise business here, and I've heard it all, from all the downtown businesses, the corporate trailer, the this and that and all that nonsense. No, I'm from here. And I'm going to tell you too, history repeats itself. It really does. We've learned nothing from our past. I grew up here when Mills and Lodge and, all these places, this downtown was packed. It was thriving, And then cronyism. I'll call it like it is. Cronyism. Got people run out of here, then started arresting people for no reason.
All right, let me
okay.
pause there.
And the downtown went.
Please keep it cordial.
I am.
Our Madison Police Department is not arresting people for no reason. There's no cronyism up here. Our Main Street is thriving. We're
You're
seeing
right.
more people than ever.
Yes,
Please
sir.
don't generalize it. And pressing the pause button doing nothing isn't making progress. The ordinance needs to be revisited. That's the next step. This just says, please, we got an area here where we got to be cautious. So
Okay.
please stop generalizing, Scott.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
thank you.
Hey, when I'm wrong, I admit it.
Thank
I do apologize for that. And that was why I wasn't going to get up here and talk, guys. I do, from the bottom of my heart, I apologize. That's not who I am as a person.
Thank you.
But I get fired up. I love this town, and I just want us all to enjoy what we've created. It's a beautiful thing, For 25 years, we saw the Ohio Theater light up, and we were part of that. To be a part of that is amazing. The food trucks were a part of that. We drew people into downtown with local businesses to help win the award for the downtown businesses and the great downtown. It was everybody's effort, everybody that was down there. We play a role in this. And to be confined without any true discussion about it is, I just don't understand. So I do apologize for what I said. I do.
Okay.
I truly
I
do.
understand.
So, guys, that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, let me just address his last remark. We are talking about it. We did form a new projects committee to evaluate a very outdated ordinance. We're engaging here and just saying there's a lot of work this community needs to do for that and other things. I mean, drive around town, there's so many things that we're been handling, that we are doing in the future, but we can't disregard the safety element of it, and I can't disregard a statute. That's the thing. It took 2 years to Jody's point. It took over 2 years to move the heavy truck traffic off of Main Street. It took 2 years, and I can tell you, as a person that lives on Main Street, my quality of life is way better. Main Street is way better. We're still working. We did the traffic calming on the west end to get people to slow down instead of driving 20, 30 miles over the speed limit, which is still occurring on the east end. We're about to do a traffic calming measurement on the east end. These are real serious problems. And you get a car that's going through this area here where you've got clusters of lots of people, food trucks, everything happening. It's very dangerous. We really have to just, like I said, we got to deal with it. We're going to engage you guys. In fact, before today, I sent this to Madison Main Street. I sent it to the Chamber of Commerce. I sent it to Visit Madison Inc. So everybody can have a preview of what we're saying. Let's be cautious and slow things down. Hi.
Hi, my name is Coco Heath. I am the proprietress of Scarlet Begonia. I also own another business in the county. I own a Hoosier homestead that has been in the family for 177 years. I'm also a retired veteran. I served for 21 and a half years in the U.S. Coast Guard. I also grew up here.
Thank you for your service. I say it to you frequently, and I mean it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Coco.
I also grew up here. My dream was to own a business on Main Street. Excuse me, I'm dealing with hay fever. It's southern Indiana.
Exactly.
So I did that. I came home in 2018, I opened a storefront on Mulberry Street. I put a lot of energy into Mulberry Street, which is now being seen today. You got new sidewalks, we've got new businesses that went in there, and then I got the opportunity to move to Main Street. While on Mulberry Street, I was unable to have a food truck in front of my business for any promotion. The grade there is too steep for any of the food trucks to be on that street, which is what happens with a lot of side streets downtown. It's one of the great things about living in the Ohio Valley is we have hills and valleys. So not all of them are for that, which I understand the parking ordinance for that manner. But when I moved to Main Street, I had the opportunity to have a food truck for my first opening. That food truck clearly fit within the lines that are barely visible on Main Street. I do know that Main Street's getting redone, however, the lines are barely visible currently. I know you guys have heard those complaints, so I don't want to regurgitate that. But they fit clearly within the lines. My first question is, would that be a violation of that 1958 parking ordinance if that food truck fit clearly within the lines and did not have any electrical cords crossing the sidewalk?
Yes, we're creating a permit process for any transient merchant, which was the food trucks, so yes.
I'm not talking about the new
Yeah.
ordinance, I'm talking about
Yeah.
the 1958 ordinance. Would that have violated the 1958 parking ordinance?
Probably not.
All right.
No.
So if I continue to do that and we start enforcing that, then would that also not take care of this issue?
Don't believe so. Just
Alright.
because it can fit in a space doesn't mean it's not creating the other issues. So again, all we're trying to say is, let's think about this. Let's figure out how we want to do this so we can elevate the experience and make it safe at the same time.
All right, so I'll also like to add that on top of that, I saw an increase in my sales that day with having that food truck. Last year on Mulberry Street, I saw a decrease in 24% of sales. While we may still having a lot of people come across Main Street, they're not spending money. This year, my sales are down an additional 37%, even with moving to Main Street. I'll be happy to provide those numbers at any time anybody would like to see those. I've offered that since 2018. Nobody's ever taken me up on it. I'm more than welcome to give those numbers at any time.
But again, that has nothing to do with food trucks, right?
It
I
does.
mean, what you're saying.
Well, I'm not
well,
saying
have
the
you had a food-
decrease, no, the
Okay.
decrease, absolutely
I'm
not.
just gonna challenge your point a little bit. You're saying from January 1 to now, your sales are down 37%.
Yes.
And how many food trucks have been in front of your
So
your
the
store?
day that I had a food truck at one time, my sales were doubled than what I experienced the year before on Mulberry Street.
I'm saying, I know that there is often going to be a correlation, which is, my sales were up because that food truck was there, but that goes away. You don't have a food truck in front of your business
No, I'm just
every
saying
day,
that there's a
so.
great partnership with the
Yeah.
food trucks and,
Yeah.
and the businesses. And safety's a big thing for me, so
Yeah.
I make sure that all the safety things are followed. Soup Stewed Brew is coming up, and I've already been asked to allow an electric cord to be run across the sidewalk in front of my business, and I told them no. That's not okay to me. I don't, that's a safety thing, I won't let that do. But what my point is that we have a really good relationship with the food trucks, and it's unfair that, I agree that you guys are taking this communication, but it would be really nice, to have a open place where people could come and maybe work through an ordinance. That would be great for everyone and still hit all of the safety measures that need to be hit with the city. With the new ordinance, I would be in the corridor that would never be allowed to have a food truck again until that ordinance was updated. And since we don't update ordinances very often, I worry that I will be closed before I would be able to have a food truck in front of my shop again.
Are you saying your business is dependent upon
No,
a
that's
food
not what
truck?
I'm saying at all, but it is also very beneficial for events. Like, I already have 2 food trucks scheduled that will clearly fit within the lines. No cords being run across the sidewalks for our sidewalk sale on July 20th. And if this thing is signed, this new ordinance is signed, I will no longer have those, which is also a promotion I've already been sending out to my customers because I didn't know about this until last night at about 11:30. So there's the communication factor that would really just be beneficial to help. I'm not saying that this isn't needed.
Yeah.
I see the traffic all day. I'm one of the people that have almost been hit, even though I'm not a small person and have pink hair. So I understand that, but I just think that maybe a communication before we're putting an ordinance before would be a great conversation to invite the food trucks.
Hey,
and
we
the
have
pet-
one
and
way
the
to go or the
merchants.
other, just to clarify that. We can enforce it for everybody, or we can do what we're saying, which is, let's just be cognizant that this corridor here is the at most risk.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not making up a new ordinance.
Right, and I would also ask
We're
that
kind
maybe
of following suit with what other communities do that have much more stringent regulations. We're just saying is that, if the group here would rather us say, you know what, you can't have food trucks everywhere, I don't want to do that. But that's what this says, right?
Right. My only thing is, we're not enforcing the 1958 already. We're not enforcing the parking regulations. If we were, the cars in front of my store today wouldn't be parked the way that they're parked. They're not following the lines, and that's not anywhere new. Like, it was like that when I was on Mulberry Street. It's like that now. Can we start enforcing what we have already before we start going after people who are following the permits? I mean, not the permits, but the ordinances that they're already out there. The peddler's permits, the health department permits, they already pay over $600 a year in permits that I don't have to pay to be a brick and mortar, and they're following those. I mean, just before we start making up new ones, maybe if we follow the old
Well,
ones.
you have to address the issues one at a time. And I'll tell you, what paralyzes a city is saying, I can't do that until that and that and that and that is done. That paralyzes you, because there's so much to do. This corridor has not had any modernization in it for probably about 75 years. I don't know if people know how significant this is, but when that agreement was reached to transfer this corridor to the city of Madison, what also came with it was about a $35 million obligation. And the only way to address that is one bite at a time over a long period of time. So you can't wait until it's all ready. You got to deal it sequentially. And just a couple years ago, what I heard every day in my office was parking problems on Main Street, parking problems downtown, can't get to where I want to go. And what have we done? We've improved parking. We finished the parking lot over there. We finished the parking lot down there. We put more signage up. We did a parking study. But the one thing that is lacking here is parking regulation. There was a time when the city of Madison downtown and all the merchants thrived when there was parking meters. And now, if you want to go on Main Street and park there forever, you can, because there's nothing that says you can't. If you live downtown here, or even if you own a business down here, you're generally parking on Main Street. So there's a lot of issues here, but again, one at a time, and that is not to make things worse. We know this is emerging, and I think it's undeniable. We're already, so far, we've said, this improves traffic. This improves traffic on Main Street. And it's kind of proving the point, which is we have to address it so we can do it the right way. And it may not be. It may not be park anywhere you want. It shouldn't be park anywhere you want. That's the way it is now. And my chief of police will tell you, trying to regulate parking in City of Madison, where you have literally millions and millions of cars coming through different points throughout the course of a year, it's an enormous challenge. And honestly, most people get upset at the police. They get upset at the police because they're not enforcing something, or they didn't stop that speeder, or that car is too loud, or that motorcycle has his music blaring, or the car backfires, or they raced down Main Street. I very rarely hear about the criticism being directed at the person driving the vehicle. So it's an enormous problem that we all need to work together to resolve, because our police department is small, but we have so much transient traffic through our community, it's unreal.
I would like to clarify.
Yeah.
I personally think we don't have enough police in this town. I think we probably need double. I also think that we have plenty of parking in this city. I know I'm an oddity of that. I see there's tons of parking. People just might not use it appropriately or park appropriately in those, which is why I would argue that we need to enforce that a little bit more, which is why we need more cops to do all the things.
We've actually grown our police department probably, I think, around 25% in the last 4 years.
And that's fantastic. I think it's really awesome.
But my chief will probably, and I'm talking a lot for him, but tell you how hard it is to recruit and retain police officers in this environment.
And as a retired military, I understand that, because a lot of retired military are pulled for that, and so are veterans, period. I would like to close that.
Yeah.
Using the food trucks is a great source for the businesses downtown. I don't see them as competition. I also spoke to you in 2019 about the peddler's permit with the honey guy. I agree with you then, as I do now. Competition is good. We live in a capitalist society, and we have a free market. I would really just like to see the food trucks to be allowed to be part of my business and be included downtown.
Well, let me ask you a question. What if 20 people wanted to do the exact same thing the exact same day and exactly the same time?
That's not a what-if that's really gonna happen downtown. We don't have 20 businesses or 20 food trucks that would ever do that.
I don't know.
So, I mean,
I've
if
seen
we
a
wanna
half a
live in a
dozen.
what-if world,
I've seen a half
everything
a
would be
dozen at once
perfect,
here.
but that's just not what
Yeah.
we live in. The reality is, I'm surrounded on both sides by food businesses. I also sell food myself, but yet when I have a food truck in front of my store, the bartenders at Red on Main made more money than they have that whole month, and they sold out of their specials and 2 of their sandwiches that day. So that's not an issue. The free market thing is an issue. If we're talking about regulations today, which is what we are, I would argue that we enforce the parking first, lead with in getting that fixed before we start excluding people. Because when you start excluding people, then, the new kitchen down on the east end has semis out in front all day and is taking up a spot with a grill that he parks there. Like, we're taking away business from people who live in this town, who contribute, who sponsor things, who pay their taxes. I think that before we're taking away and removing business from the county, we should try to fix it and make it where those businesses can do business in this town. So,
All right.
thank you.
Thank Coco.
Hey, my name is
Just say
Zach.
Zach.
Oh,
Just say
sorry.
Zach. Sorry. Hey, Zach.
Hey, my name is Zach Lee. I live at 139 Hillcrest. I also own Pizza Uncommon, which is right across the street here at 101 East Main. I got to get back to the pizza oven, so I want to make my comment quick. But insofar as this is about public safety, I'm 100% on board keeping the streets safe. I think that's absolutely an important thing for every city to tackle. The comment that I would make would be, I hope that, I think from here, the devil is really in the details. How cumbersome do we make it for the food trucks to get these permits? How expensive is it? How, what's the timeline like? How many are being denied? And when this board tackles those problems, I hope that your approach is one in such that we can grow the experience here in Madison culinarily. We have an opportunity with food trucks to provide something that they can't afford. They can't afford the rent that I can afford as a pizza shop. If we take the approach that, we want to protect the brick and mortars that are here, the restaurant owners that are here, which are comments that I'm hearing publicly from members of this board. I want you to know you don't speak for me, okay? I have a pizza shop here on Main Street. These guys for sure are my competition insofar as we're both competing for dinner dollars, but I will be successful as a business owner when Madison is successful as a culinary destination. These guys help. These guys help me. If our approach is, no, we want to protect the guys that are already here, then you're going to end up with only pizza restaurants, only coffee shops, only burger shops, and maybe a couple of ice cream shops. And that's it. That's all you're ever going to have. And the reason that's all you're ever going to have is because we're the only ones who can afford the margin that it takes in a tight economy right now when it's hard for people. Everybody's grocery bill went up. Our grocery bills went up too, at home and in our business, okay? And now, all my customers, their grocery bills went up. So what do? I can't raise my prices even though my prices went up. I have to discount my product now, right? I'm competing too. I'm fighting for my life here every single day when I show up. I found out about this meeting 20 minutes before it happened. Found a way to get over here because I want you guys to know that, at least for me, I only own one business. I don't own a bunch. I have 16 people on my staff. It's not a whole lot, but we're proud to bring to the table something that is interesting, something that is unique. And I hope that your approach as you move forward is we want to prioritize safety, but also prioritize the ability for hardworking entrepreneurs to bring something unique to Madison, because we don't need another pizza shop. Thanks.
My name is Lindsay Blues. I live at 415 Poplar Street. For the last 4 years, I've been an economic development consultant, and I work around the country in communities all around the country. I see all sorts of different things, and I help different communities create economic development strategic plans. So food trucks, and I don't think that I necessarily have to go into all of the benefits of food trucks, but I'm going to dig in just a little bit. So food trucks, number one, create an incredibly vibrant community and a great atmosphere. They bring people in person together to talk, to hang out, and it really creates community in a way that a lot of other businesses just don't do. They stimulate the economy in a much larger way than a lot of people realize. Number one, they create jobs. You might not think that food trucks create a lot of jobs, but they do. They actually have created over 40,000 jobs in the U.S. just within the last year. So there's that. They also meet consumer demand, and he was just talking about that, creating a culinary destination, meeting the demand that consumers are looking for. They are partners in businesses. Ours, as Coco said, partner with the local businesses. They're invited to come in. They don't just show up and set up just because they want to. 9 times out of 10, they are working with a local business in partnership to increase the sales, not just of the food truck, but of the business that they're in front of. And our Main Street is Great American Main Street because of this atmosphere. It's incredibly important. And also, competition is good. I remember hearing a lot from different businesses, and especially a particular set of restaurants that say that would get mad about competition, new restaurants coming in, et cetera, et cetera. But competition is good. We heard earlier about this is a free market economy. Absolutely. So despite food trucks, despite labor shortages, restaurant sales are actually up. So across the country, restaurant sales are still up about 41%. They actually help, there's data that shows that food trucks actually help restaurants grow. So we need to kind of get that competition thing out of our heads. It also controls, thank you, it also controls inflation. And people don't think about that either. But the more competition that you have, the lower your inflation is. This economy in Madison is built on manufacturing and tourism, right? We are a tourism-based economy, and we're growing that economy in part because of food trucks. So food trucks actually attract spending from a key demographic that Madison has a really difficult time pulling in. 25 to 44, ages 25 to 44 make up 43% of food truck sales. So that group, that demographic, age 25 to 44, that Madison has always struggled with attracting and keeping here. They're the ones buying food from the food trucks. We want to create an environment where young people stay in this community and raise their families in this community. We need to bring in things that they want to see, and they want to see food trucks. They do. Let's talk a little bit about cost. It can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to get off the ground for a food truck. It's at least $50,000 to get going on a food truck. It's not a small investment. Food trucks give entrepreneurs a great way to start out. They often start out with a food truck business and find a permanent location. That happens. It happens a lot. And so that investment being made in our community or near our community, and those individuals, those entrepreneurs being able to see that they can go and set up in front of a business and help each other out is incredibly important. And if they started that business, that entrepreneur started that business thinking that they could participate in the vibrant community that's already happening with the enforcement or lack of enforcement that has been happening, right? They've created this business thinking that they could operate here and that they could make a really good go of it in Madison, Indiana. So it costs, on average, and this is across the country, $28,276 on average to purchase permits required to open a food truck. the industry as a whole is bringing in a great portion of the economy. The industry is actually valued at about $1.5 billion and is growing at about 10%. So we need to not ignore the fact that the economy is being affected by these food trucks.
We're not ignoring that.
I just want to
Yeah.
make sure
No, I'm
that
just-
everybody is aware.
And I appreciate your remarks, and I'm
Yeah.
going to ask everybody here, and you as well, Lindsay, because you're making good points.
Yes.
Of why food trucks are a great experience for Madison.
Yes.
So that conversation is going to be important when we get to updating the ordinance that governs and regulates food trucks. Because what we're not saying here is, we don't like food trucks, I love them. We're not saying never put a food truck on a public street. We're not saying that either. We're saying for the time being, we have this corridor that's a matter of just a few blocks. And we're making all the arguments about why we need food trucks, which is all true. So far, no one has said, this is why we need them right here to here. Over the course of the next 90 days, we can't do without them. They're still operating food trucks. They're still parking on private parking lots, for example. They're still completely around us. So I just want to make that point clear, because
Yeah, that's
what
a
we're
good
not
point.
saying is
Absolutely.
we're not saying they're not positive
And I
to
just
the
want
to Madison.
to your
Yeah.
point, when I started, I said I don't think that I need
Yeah.
to necessarily rave about the benefits of food trucks, but I felt like I really needed to get some of that on the record.
Well, I'm glad
and
you
a
are,
couple of
because
points that
that's going to
people
be the
haven't
next
made.
process, which is okay.
Absolutely.
When we really try to modernize the regulation of food trucks, that discussion is going to be really, really important with our new projects committee, and our city council. City council is going to be the one to actually make that a permanent change
Okay.
to the ordinances. We're just saying, for now,
I understand.
let's use the process we already have for now.
And you mentioned 90 days, Mayor. So you mentioned 90 days. Are you expecting to be able to turn something around in 90 days so that food trucks can continue to operate
I
downtown?
hope they can. It may take longer than that.
We know how slow government can be sometimes.
Depends on the pace of the new projects committee, but we're using that committee really as three city council persons, as well as myself and our community relations person, to try to figure it out. What we know is that what we're using right now from 58, 98, and 2013 isn't good enough anymore.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. How often is the new projects committee meeting?
Depending on schedule, but been trying to do it every couple of weeks.
Okay.
We have quite a bit to tackle. But
I'm sure you do.
This is number 2 on our list.
Okay, number 2.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that they're probably dedicating part of their meeting just about every single time to talk about this then, right?
We're doing it one at a time, so we're creating the agenda. We're almost finished with the first ordinance that we're updating that hadn't been updated in probably 30 years, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that other communities across the country have much more strict ordinances. There are also some that have really creative and innovative ordinances that are less restrictive.
Sure.
I would highly suggest that the committee look at those. I know that when we were talking about years ago.
Do you have a community name? You said to look at those. Can you name a community?
We're looking at a whole
Make it
variety
a
of,
lot
not only,
easier.
when I say, I'm sorry, Carl,
No, that's all right.
Indiana and nation. So we're really trying to understand this market better
Yes.
and how it serves the community better.
Do you have a name for our community we can look at real
I
quick?
don't really
have
right at this moment because I found out about this meeting at 10 a.m. So I wanted to make sure that I got over here with a little bit of statistics and information given my experience. But I don't have anything set. I can absolutely look at and bring to the table some ordinances that are available from communities that I know are doing really well.
But we need to look at ordinances that fit Madison.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So to
things
that
we can
point,
emulate.
Exactly, every ordinance is not gonna fit
exactly.
our
Exactly.
situation.
And so I was about to mention one example of that, which was when years ago we were working on the golf carts, and some of you probably remember that, right? The golf cart ordinance. We actually pulled that from Peachtree, Georgia, and worked off of the Peachtree, Georgia ordinance to try to develop that. And I know that because I was part of that process, right? So I know it can be done, and I know it doesn't take that long. To pull together that golf cart ordinance did not take very long at all. It's about having the right ordinance to go off of, making sure it's customized to Madison, and getting it in place as soon as possible. I'm a little, wondering a little bit about timing on this. So I'm kind of wondering how long you all have kind of debated about bringing this to the table to make this specific resolution.
Oh, it's been on my mind for a long time. It's been needed for several years, candidly.
I know it's been needed, but
yeah.
how long have you talked about bringing it here today?
The resolution's presented to the public today.
Yeah, but I just was wondering on how long you've been working on it.
I've been working on it for quite a while.
Okay. I'm also wondering about the timing, given that it's Regatta Week. Is there a certain correlation with wanting to get this in before Regatta? No?
No.
Just a question.
No, honestly, the urgency is before the festival season really gets in full gear, because, as you know, I live downtown just like you do.
Yep.
I see it all, and this has been a problem that's been growing, and I've seen every situation, and I've talked to many of the food truck operators about this. So there's never a wrong time to just, implement good, practical, pragmatic, proactive conversation about something like this that's emerging. And just to remind everybody, we're not making up new rules here. We're actually creating accommodations. We want our community to thrive. It is thriving, but we want everybody to be successful. But that also comes at the price we're having right now, which is, well, another situation where our ordinances are way outdated. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what's been emerging here.
I agree, and
Yeah.
I appreciate the proactive approach. Excuse me. I appreciate the proactive approach. My concern is mostly that our food trucks that are active in this community can continue to operate in downtown, and that they can be turned around in a very timely fashion, so as to not hurt the entrepreneurs that are making this incredible investment into our community. I'm very concerned about that, the timing of it, and I'm a little bit wondering about, with this specific ordinance and the way that you've put it in here, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to read all of it. Again, I just found out about it a couple hours ago. What is the difference between this ordinance? What does this ordinance specifically change from previous?
Doesn't change anything other than the fact that we want you to know you're not allowed on Main Street, okay? You're not, based on the ordinance, unless you fit into this tiny little box that nobody does. But we're saying for this 4-block area, while we're trying to modernize our ordinance, we're going to create a process just like we always have. We've had food truck operators come to Board of Public Works before and say, I want to block these 2 or 3 or 4 spaces this weekend for these 4 events throughout the course of the year. We're not saying we're doing anything different. Well, we've got 4 blocks here that I'm saying is a concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have an existing statute that we're saying already governs you. So, we need to be better informed about it. Honestly, it'd be great if, some of our organizations here in town, had, or when they come in and apply for a permit, just like on the golf cart ordinance, we have several golf cart rental companies now. Here are the rules of where you can take your golf cart.
Yeah.
Well, when they come to get a permit, they need the rules too.
I absolutely agree. I
And
think
so there's things we can do.
letting people know
Yeah.
the rules is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that it doesn't change anything, but it does make me wonder why the need to actually approve an ordinance if it's already in place.
We're not adopting an ordinance.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
We are just making a resolution by the Board of Public Works to affirm that those ordinances have been established and to communicate out there in a very public way. Press the pause button, just help us. What we're saying is help us figure this out. We're talking about 4 blocks of the busiest part of Madison, downtown Madison in particular, where we have multiple incidences of accidents with pedestrians. Now, I can't tell you, well, that was because of the food truck. I can't tell you that, but I can tell you it was a number of variables that cause us to be very concerned. And that's why we're here today. It's saying we've got some things to figure out, but we're not doing it alone. We're doing it in a public meeting. Another way that this could have happened is I could have just called Chief Scudder on the telephone. That's all it would have taken, seriously.
And I very much
So we're doing
appreciate
this
that.
in a very public way, so you guys can really start thinking about your practices. And I can tell you, again, I've seen it all. And I'm not going to single anybody out. We value our food trucks. We value as Zach was the point he was making, it's a great experience. It offers something different. But there's a time and place for everything, and right now there's no guardrails, meaning the guardrails are there, but nobody has called us and said, is it okay if I put that food truck there? Until a couple weeks ago, someone said, hey, I'm going to put a food truck there, and it's going to take up 5 parking spaces.
And was that approved?
No, it wasn't approved. No, in fact, we didn't deny it. We said, well, you need to go to Board of Public Works for that.
And Board of Public Works meets once a month,
We meet
correct?
every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks, okay.
And the guy
Thank
said,
you.
I don't want to. Okay.
And he is out
So
of
we
town
didn't
guy.
invent anything. We're saying,
So
please take time to
because you're-
understand what concern we're expressing.
I think
and the
I
information
understand
that's
the
there.
concern that you're expressing, and I very much appreciate that. I appreciate the pragmatic and proactive approach to this. I absolutely do. My next question is just, I really kind of came
Yeah,
here.
I know there's other people here that want to speak.
understand.
So if you could
I'm
slowly
wrapping
start
it up
wrapping
right now.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
I came here thinking that this was kind of a short-sighted and quick decision, and I'm coming away having a different opinion of that. So I appreciate you explaining some things to me. Also, I just want to say that I would suggest, since the Board of Public Works meets every 2 weeks, that you reconvene in 2 weeks to approve this so that you give those food trucks who already have something scheduled time to have their kind of thing that they already have on their schedule and be able to put in for requests for spaces for upcoming things that they may have planned.
Well, let me address it this way, which is we meet every 2 weeks. So if there's a food truck person here who has already made a commitment within that 2-week period, please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment that I'm kind of getting the feeling that you think we're against food trucks. I'm not against food trucks, but I think the situation needs to be under control, and that's what we're trying to do under the current ordinance that is in effect currently. So I just want to say I'm not against food trucks. I enjoy them, so, just for the record.
My name is Tyler Mingione, Mingione. I own the Pearl Plate at 214 East Main Street. Am I allowed to continue? Do we need to wait for Mayor Bob, or can I continue?
David can take over.
Yeah, okay.
You be acting chair when Bob's gone. You be acting chair when Bob's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. go ahead.
I really just wanted to get this out before the next phase, as Mayor Bob mentioned, would be going into effect at some point after this is in place. Just in case I don't have a chance to, because I often don't get to come to these meetings because I do have a business. But I started my business at the very, very end of West Main Street, right across from the Red Pepper, Oni, at 845 West Main Street. I, as a business owner, asked food trucks to sit outside because there is an obvious difference in traffic on the west end of Main Street versus the east end, so much so that 200% more traffic on the other end during our Barbie sidewalk sale last year. So I kind of just wanted to give this perspective of, yes, parking is kind of an issue that a lot of people address. I had 2 parking spots in front of my store at the West Main location. I would say 50% of that time those were occupied by people going across the street to eat. But I never never once blamed the restaurant. They have wonderful restaurants. I love the Heights family. I have zero issue with that. So I just want to emphasize that I never placed blame on those restaurants for missing out on that as a customer, as a business owner. Now I'm on the east end. As other businesses have mentioned, sales numbers are down, so that's another reason that I would love to have these to kind of help, these food trucks to help with that, because we do see a correlation. Again, I know you're not against food trucks, and I love that this is, coming to this meeting, this is a safety issue. Again, I just wanted to address these for the next phase that you'd be going into.
But as a business owner, would you like to know beforehand if there is a vendor that wants to set up in front of your business on East Main? Would you like to know beforehand?
I'd never had that issue. I was always asking them to come to my business. Is that what you mean?
Well, this is a busier area up here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, where you're at now, you know, food truck would probably be more apt to park there than down on West Main. So if one pulled up without notice, would you think maybe, well,
I don't
notice
think that the
before?
food trucks would disrespect in that way. I think they would ask beforehand. I've never had an issue with that. Again, if there's one parked in front of my store, I would address that and I would ask them.
Because we had a person from out of town that asked to come down and take up 5 places.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't probably gonna ask you.
But he asked you, right?
He came here to City Hall and was denied.
And I'm,
And we said, come to the Board of Public Works meeting where that type of request is
yeah,
considered.
I think that
Yeah.
was the right way of going
Yeah.
about that, and I'm glad that they asked you. But yeah, that hasn't been an issue, and I've never heard of that from other business owners that that's happened. Honestly, I'm more concerned with the vehicles that are parked for months at a time in front of my store location.
Do you have vehicles parked for months at a time?
Not anymore, because we addressed it.
But are they, again, that's also, I'll just say that, was it an abandoned vehicle or was it somebody that owned property and lived there? Again, not everything is what it may seem. And we get complaints a lot about parking and it's like,
Yeah.
well, but it's not an abandoned vehicle. And we don't have the authority to remove, we only have the authority to remove abandoned vehicles.
Okay.
And believe it or not, that's a big problem around town too. We probably have
I've had that too.
removed 80 of them in the last couple of years. It's nuts, but not
Yeah.
every vehicle that's parked in a space, you know, for more than 2 or 3 days is abandoned.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I only bring that up because I didn't know with this ordinance if that would be in any way related to situations like that or not.
That's
a different statute and
Okay.
ordinance.
Okay.
In
so-
addressing that situation, we have a lot of apartments, second, third floor apartments in the buildings on Main Street, and the residents park on Main Street. So, you know, those vehicles may sit there, you know, depending upon their work schedule, maybe for several days.
Yeah.
So, you know, so you have to take that into consideration. So,
Really,
Yeah.
I just wanted to address kind of my perspective as a business owner for the next phase of what would be going in the future. But I'll just close by saying I hope before any, maybe the next phase, there's some sort of publicly announced open discussion for people to address their concerns like prior, because I found about it this morning. I know a lot of people only found
The
about it a
ordinance will
couple of
take
days
3
ago.
readings, right? The ordinance
Okay.
itself. This is a 2-phase thing. All we're doing is saying, we'll just remind you, there's already existing statute out there that you're governed by.
Yeah.
That nobody's following.
Yeah.
And that's why we're saying, let's stop and think about this while we modernize the policy, and it's honestly as simple as that.
Yeah.
I think more is being read into it because I understand the impact, but to my recollection, I'm not sure we've had maybe more than 1 or 2 food trucks on Main Street all year. But now we're heading into that season. But I'll never forget the weekends where we had thousands of people and about 6 food trucks between Jefferson Street and Broadway. Honestly, it might have been between West Street and Broadway. And it was a bit of a nightmare. It really worried me. And I'm on Main Street all the time, picking up litter, looking for sidewalk damage, asking businesses, believe it or not, to make repairs that they're required to make, not tear up our sidewalks, not block the sidewalk unless they have a permit. There's a pretty, great level of disregard for public safety, unfortunately, by a lot of people.
I think
And-
something that we could benefit
Yeah.
from is some sort of, like, this may not be possible, but some sort of, for lack of better words, workshop to educate
I'd love that.
food trucks,
Yeah.
all of us, all the business owners, on what these rules are. Because I think just seeing this notice this morning is just scary. People are going, I'm going to lose, for some people, our job possibly if this is your full-time gig. So I think having the education aspect of it beforehand, I think, is something
And
that.
Tyler, I'll mention to you, there's dozens and dozens of ordinances and statutes just like this. And it's impossible to enforce them all with the resources that we have. And the civility of a society depends upon how it governs itself, right? And unfortunately, all the problems we have aren't because we're not enforcing it, it's because they're happening by the person doing it. And our traffic issues here in our community are immense. And we do everything we can to create barriers and slow them down and reduce the speed limit, put a stop sign here or there, change the lane traffic. Half the people like it, half the people complain about it, and it's still a problem. If you sat, and you probably have, because this is really close to my heart, honestly, because I'm on Main Street all the time, and I just see how unsafe it is. Sit in front of Noah's Coffee Shop. Not very long. You don't have to sit there very long. But you see people coming from the west end to the east end, and they're already, when they cross that line, they're probably doing at least 20 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah, I saw it all the time.
We've had
on
a
the
lady run over completely. Both sets of tires, right here. We had another business owner just recently almost get hit by a car. We had an elderly person down the street, and we have wide streets with poor and not modern signalization, almost get hit by cars because they're going all directions, left, right, straight. They're very distracted.
Absolutely, I
And
see
so
that
that's
every
what
day.
this is really about, which is,
We also had a car enter a building, the front of a building, just
yeah,
three
you ran
doors,
into
three doors out.
Hong Kong Kitchen a
Here.
few years ago.
I'm good friends with Mr. Horse, so I
Yeah,
completely
yeah,
understand where
so
you're coming
there's-
from, yeah.
I'm not making these issues up, but I am kind of ringing the bell a little bit, which is we can do better.
Yeah, I 100% support the safety aspect of this. I just wanted to offer my perspective.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, good
Who
morning.
might you be?
Yeah, do I need to state my name and occupation? Austin Sims, Executive Director of the Main Street Program. I live downtown as well, 740 West Main Street. Got my neighbors right in front of me. So, Mayor Bob, I just wanted to ask, how many times have you probably called me in the last year asking about food trucks and what's going on downtown on a Saturday morning?
Yeah, probably a few.
Yeah, quite a few times. And those people behind me, they all know every event that happens downtown, everyone thinks I'm the Main Street Police. They call me and say, what are these food trucks doing in front of my business? What's going on? And a lot of my job and a lot of what Main Street does is we act as that middle piece, right? Trying to bridge what may be adopted by the city or what festival's happening. And we're kind of that connector between, those people that are here for an experience and also those people that are investing in our community. So I wasn't going to say anything because I really wanted to just digest everything that everyone wanted to say today, but I just had a couple of questions that I wanted to bring up with this. So we have great friends here with our mobile food vendors, as I call them. They all know that I also hound them because I would love for them to be a brick and mortar one day. They're probably tired of it. A couple of them have even politely told me, please stop asking me to rent this space. And I think I wanted to mention that because going off of what Zach at Pizza Uncommon mentioned before too, just the way things are at this time, it's really difficult for people to invest, especially into a kitchen setting in business here in Madison. But again, the diversity that they bring is huge, and that was actually part of our Great America Main Street application, was talking about the diversification that's really happening right now. And from a Main Street perspective, we very much appreciate that, Mayor Bob, that you let us know about this. But I just My only critique and request,
Yeah.
I guess, is that I found out at 4:42 on Wednesday, tried to digest it Thursday afternoon, and I took a personal day Friday. So hearing about it again this morning, it really set in. And I think that it just caused some panic with people, and I always hate that because I think there's always a time and place that we can all talk about this and figure things out even before. So my request and the reason why I wanted to come up was to just challenge the new committee. Can you remind me what it's called again?
New projects.
New Projects Committee, to challenge or request if there could be a couple retailers or merchants to be involved in that, or even at times when needed, or even a Main Street volunteer if there's an opportunity there. Maybe they aren't voting or something like that, but invited to those committee meetings in order to help provide perspective. Because there could be other concerns that we would be happy to communicate. I mean, we're in and out myself, our program manager, Lindsay, our farmer's market manager, Brittany. We're in and out of City Hall a couple times a week, but we all know everybody's busy. So that would be my challenge and my request is to just, just as you did with that initial email, but I know you're obviously running the city. So maybe it's someone else on that committee that makes that outreach to us to help try and stay more connected. And then my only question just for the entire process moving forward is if you could outline what your thoughts are at this time for the approval and denial process. Just out of curiosity, because I think it would be helpful for Main Street to help communicate that to our counterparts that are here to complement the retailers. And we can also maybe help settle some of the brick and mortar restaurants who just need some understanding and they aren't reacting.
A couple things there. Yes, so the way the process will work with the ordinance, and like it does often, is there'll be a lot of fact-finding internally here with staff and with council members to understand how other people do it and also what would address our concerns here. And when I say concerns, all of our concerns about location and safety. And then that'll really, take a lot of the time really to kind of get something gelled, and then it would become more of a public process, which is, here's what's recommended, and we'd be happy to have you or anybody else you want to, these are public meetings too, by the way, so we're not in my office squirreled away. These are all public meetings. It's called a New Projects Committee meeting. Sometimes we talk a lot about boring stuff, but something like this that has a lot of public interest, you'll be very interested in it. And help us, help us. You know what we're trying to accomplish. We're always straddling relative to what works, what's going to be the intended or unintended consequence. Everything has that. So that process will, probably take us till early fall, and then it'll go through the actual city council process, which would be an amendment to the existing ordinance, which has not been amended since I think around 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on the permit process, no change to that. We have an application out here. If you want to reserve the parking, this would be the place to do it. And so what we'd be looking for is how many spaces, when are you going to do it, how long is it going to be, what are your precautions that you're taking, are you permitted? Right now, I couldn't tell you. If you drive by, I'm not sure that a food truck has gone through the permit process. They're not displaying it. You'd have to go up and ask them to see it. Just the same thing with, again, you're not being singled out. We have contractors, believe it or not, come to town and just dig up our streets and sidewalks with no permits. It took a year and literally hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars of damage to get that under control. And now we have a permit process for them, so that we can see who's here, why they're here, are they insured, are they going to repair our streets and sidewalks back to the way they found them? And it takes an enormous amount of resources to make sure they do. But again, that's the evolution of, we saw the problem, we had an existing statute that wasn't being followed, we refreshed it, and then we went out and really started working with the contractors to help us do it better.
And that
So they don't come through here.
and that don't solve the problem completely.
No, it still
You
happens.
still have vague contractors come in.
I mean, again, this isn't a panacea, right? This isn't a one-size-fits-all, fixes all the problems. And as Dave was talking about on that issue, we still have contractors show up and dig up our streets. We still have semis come through town. It's not going to stop the problem, but we hope that we are guarding our community against some of the bigger issues that it's creating.
I hear it in two ways, you know, again, just going back to what Main Street does. A lot of what I'm trying to do is process what the real issue is of what something or someone has come to me about. You know, so when I heard about this being proposed and was trying to think about it, I heard one of two things. Either there's some issues with parking and a couple of restaurants are chirping at City Hall asking or needing some help with parking issues. Or two, maybe our restaurants are struggling and are trying to figure out a solution, and you know, at this time it is looking at, you know, hey, what kind of things or ordinances are there to help provide boundaries for mobile vendors, you know, if they're seeing that competition. So I hear that, and I'm trying to think, you know, is there other things, and I'm appreciative that you guys have told us about other projects you have going on. But the reason I'm talking about that and bringing it up is I'm also thinking, okay, and the new Main Street approach that is coming online, right, in the next couple of years, the redesign of Main Street, right? How will this be incorporated, or how will mobile vendors or spaces for those, or just any other opportunities like that, how is that going to be sewn into that new Main Street approach, or is it at all yet?
It's a completely separate ordinance. I mean, again, we have a $35 million problem we're trying to solve one bite at a time, and it's gonna take about a decade probably to do it right.
Like, will it
But
be?
it's not, I mean, I don't wanna mislead anybody. We're not designing spaces on Main Street for
That's what I was
food
getting
trucks.
to. Okay, yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean there couldn't be designated places for food truck, but they're not gonna be on Main Street.
Okay.
I mean, that's not part of the Main Street Master Plan. The Main Street Master Plan was to promote safer gathering, safer crosswalks, slower traffic. That's what the Main Street Master Plan is designed to do. And also upgrade the condition of the road and the significant infrastructure that's under the road. It's all of those things. And so all the time, I'm not gonna say every day, but almost every day, people complain about the parking downtown, right? There was a couple years ago, it was we need a downtown parking garage. Well, in our studies, what we discovered was people are hesitant to walk very far. We had a lot of different multiple uses other than small business on Main Street. We had ample parking. It was about identifying where the parking was, particularly if someone was coming into town. So it was about wayfinding. And we have one of our largest parking our largest public parking space goes 50% underutilized all the time.
The Jefferson lot.
Yeah. So we embarked on a wholly different path once we have the data. So there's a lot of things we need to do to coexist downtown, which is a very, very mixed use part of our community.
Okay.
And do it safer.
Yeah.
So it'll be a lot more time for, you know, when this ordinance gets crafted, I'm sure, and it's not gonna be, it's gonna talk about the process, it's gonna talk about the locations. We'll try to emulate best practices, things that are working in other communities. We're not the first ones that struggle with this particular dynamic, by the way.
I wanted to
Yeah.
just close and say that those are my challenges or requests, however you want to take it, is if there could be some kind of incorporation in that committee when time being to help just for us to provide any kind of boots on the ground feedback about, you know, this is what we're thinking, how do we communicate it? Because I would have loved to try to maybe get some more people together to get some more information for you all, just prior to Wednesday of last week, because I think that would have probably helped people gather their thoughts a lot more too. So just that challenge and requests, and then just keep us updated on when the next meeting is, and if it's public, if we can attend to just learn more so we can try and support these businesses. And we would appreciate that.
We will.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I want to congratulate you on your award.
Yeah,
It's
congratulations.
fantastic.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah,
And I just want to say the service you provide is invaluable to the city. And, you know, I don't know what kind of dialogue you have between your office and City Hall, but I think whatever it is, it's invaluable that the city, that you communicate what you're hearing from Main Street businesses to the city, so that the city knows, you know, what you're thinking, what your
yeah,
business people are thinking.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think it's a extremely valuable, service.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank
I'd
you.
encourage you to, you know, whatever you're doing, continue it, improve it, you know, whatever, so,
Thank you, Mr. Carlo.
thank you.
You all. I appreciate it.
Hi there.
Another award winner.
Hello, Matt Chandler, Chandler Hotel, and 111 East 2nd Street. And I'm going to be really quick, so don't worry. So I'm just here as a tourism partner, and I think of the city as a tourism partner, and I think of food trucks as a tourism partner. And my only feedback is I just think about this ordinance and the regulation, and I think about the permit structure, and I think about this year as we rolled out like permits and applications online through the .gov website. And it's been amazing for me as we have went through and tried to fill out applications online and been able to submit that process and get feedback from the city. If there's a way for a quicker turnaround, or if there's a way for the food trucks or the small business owner to submit the application through there and try to get their permit that way for a quicker turnaround instead of waiting like the 2 weeks to kind of implement it some way in that system. I don't know. I was just trying to give feedback to, instead of them waiting like the 2-week process for this meeting, if there's some way to kind of put it into that system. That was my only feedback. I don't know if there's a way to work it in
That's a
there.
good suggestion. I'll look into that. We do use the open.gov, as you mentioned, as for a lot of our permitting, which has helped immensely. This is a little different. We're not creating a new permit process. We're not creating a new permit requirement. We're just saying there is a process. Please be aware of it. I can talk with Nicole to see if that is something that we can move to an online thing. We currently don't have a procedure where this board delegates those things, but I'll look into it. I think it's a good suggestion.
Okay. Could they approve it through there? It gets approved.
It's approved here.
Okay,
It's
it's approved here. But could they maybe approve it through?
And over
that?
there's applications that then would go to another board. I think what you're saying is staff approval of something that's applied for online.
Yeah.
Like an excavation permit, for example, we have about that much code that governs an excavation permit. It can be applied for online and approved by staff and the building inspector. That one has very solid procedures and design standards associated with it. We have not done that here. My purpose here today, just to clarify, we're not passing an ordinance. We're just adopting a resolution that says we want to make you aware that there is already an ordinance that's established that governs what you're doing. So we're not changing the rules. We're just saying, come through the process that's already there. We're making everybody aware of it.
But they're supposed to come for this, through this board though.
Anything
For the process.
so our board
Yeah.
governs essentially all streets. As we said here in the recital, we have the authority to restrict traffic, control parking in any street, alley, thoroughfare, or other public space, respectively when it's deemed to be in the public interest. So that's our authority that's governed to us. The ordinance that we're relying on was adopted in 58 and amended in like 98. But we don't have a process currently that either waives it or makes it staff approval.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My point was that there is a way to make it where you guys could approve it digitally instead of them like approve the application. instead of
The
them
only
approving it.
issue with that is it then would not be in a public meeting. And we can't do those things without being in a public meeting.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah.
That was my.
But again, our new projects committee is public. There's an evolution of different policies we're tackling there.
Okay.
We have a lot of just standard ordinances that have not been dusted off for, in some instances, decades.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
That was it.
Appreciate that. Okay, I see someone else moving to the podium. No problem.
Hi, my name is Erica McIntyre. I live at 3023 North, 533 West, Madison, Indiana, and I also am starting a blog that I'm calling Madison Weekly, where I talk about this great city that we call home. I just have a question because I'm an information person and a process person, and it's just not clear to me. And I've listened to what everybody has had to say, and I appreciate everybody's points. And I love that we can come together in the public and talk like this. So say that I am a mobile food vendor that operates out of a truck. And I have made an agreement with a downtown shop for, say, July 20th to set up in front of their shop on Main Street in this area that is in question today. What does that now look like for me? What do I need to do? This is a hypothetical, I'm just trying to clarify it. What would I need to do in order to still be able to fulfill that commitment to the small business and to also be square with the law, because that's important?
Yeah, well, good question, and I think Lindsay brought that up, and I said if there's anybody here that has already made arrangements in the course of the next 2 weeks before we meet again on July the 15th, please let me know.
Okay.
So far this year, it's not been a problem, but I know we're entering into this festival season where there is more traffic, more food trucks, more density. But if it is an issue, please call the office and let us know.
So
But we will meet again on July 15th.
Okay, so they should attend the meeting on July 15th, and
Yeah,
they should
apply
contact you
right
in the
away
meantime, and they
because
should
there's
apply right
preparation
away.
time to get it onto the agenda.
Okay, I appreciate
Yep.
you clarifying that, Mayor Bob. That was my
And what
only
we'd be looking for there, right, is describe the circumstances.
question.
And I know some of the conversation early kind of got off on the competition thing.
Right.
But if you read the resolution, it doesn't say anything about that. If you listen to our comments and discussion, it's about the safety and environmental impacts. And I'm going to reiterate again, this is a high-traffic corridor where we saw 5 million visitors, trucks, cars, people on bicycles go through this intersection in the course of the last year. There's visibility issues, sanitation issues, noise issues. Hardly anybody displays their permits. We're not sure they're insured. We're not even sure they're permitted. And there's trip hazards. And it's just it's something we've got to get our arms around instead of saying, doesn't matter. And I don't think anybody's really saying that, but they're saying, why now? And is there something to do with this being Regatta Week? No, it has nothing to do with that. There's never a wrong time to do the right thing, and this has been really on my mind for a very long time. And again, living on Main Street and walking up and down the streets almost every day, picking up litter, moving things, calling my staff to take care of a problem, calling business owners to take care of a problem. This is the right time to bring it to your all's attention, candidly. There's no other reasons than that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Bob.
Thank you.
I'm on everybody's side here. I just wanted to make that clear, because if I can't understand it, I'm worried that other people can't understand it either.
Yeah, and if you want to sit down and have coffee and talk about Madison Weekly, that'd be awesome.
I absolutely would.
Because there's a lot going on in this town.
You're on my list to contact this week, actually, so
Okay.
I'll be in touch soon.
All right.
Thank
sir.
you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no other public comments, we'll close public comment. Yeah, please, Jody, if you don't mind, come back up. Yeah. Thank you.
I think where the competition issue came up is with, I'm sorry, I don't
Yeah.
know your name.
Board
It's
Member
when
Carlo.
you mentioned
Board Member
brick
Carlo.
and mortars.
Yeah, Board Member Carlo. And Carl might have mentioned it too. And
Yeah, I
again,
think-
there's a lot of things, but if you look at the text here, I'm trying to solve the problem before it becomes a major issue.
Yes,
And I think we're on the precipice of it.
I hear the safety issue, but I don't connect the safety issue. I feel like the food trucks are being blamed.
Well, you're right outside of this corridor.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I go to the food trucks
Yeah.
when they are in this corridor, and it's not massive people. It's nice little groups of people, small, standing on the sidewalks to place their orders or pick up their food. I don't know how, it's like they're being blamed for people crossing the street or cars that are driving erratically. I feel like the food trucks are being blamed for that.
They're not. I want to make that clear. You're not being blamed. We're
Okay.
saying
Okay.
you're operating on an unregulated basis right now, and we just need to get our arms around it.
Yeah.
And we will. And we'll land in a better place. Because this is, again, a trend that's emerging. It's becoming very popular.
Yeah.
And when you combine all the wonderful things about Madison with its music, its shops, It's food trucks, it's restaurants, it's
Yeah.
very pedestrian-friendly environment.
Gosh, yes.
So much.
So much. I mean, and I hear it a lot in my business. You know, the people, they want places to go to eat. They always ask me, that's the most commonly asked question I get is, you know, where can we go to eat? And then places aren't open past 8 o'clock. It's the summer, it's the weekend. So I think the food trucks are just so valuable, and I hope we can figure this out
We will.
real quick.
Man, we have had cases of not everybody ordering from the sidewalk. We have had instances where people have had to be out in the street to order from the food truck, and that's not safe.
The way
I don't
the
think
food
I've ever
truck is-
seen a
the
food
way-
truck
the way
with the
food
window
truck
on the
is-
opposite
is-
side.
The way the trucks are placed, but the people ordering food in the traffic area.
Like
And
like
with
when
a
you block the
permit,
streets?
with a permit, we can stop
No,
that.
no, the street's open.
The street's open.
The street's open for traffic, but
We've had
people
that.
have to
I've
get out
never
into the
seen
street
that. I've
to.
never seen a food truck
Well, and we've
facing-
had, I'll throw another example. We've had people just bring a grill and tables and chairs and put it in a parking spot.
We've had that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
again,
wow.
No
our
no permit,
perspectives,
no health,
we're,
nothing.
again, we all have different and unique perspectives and experiences.
Yeah, I'm just talking about these big food trucks.
I'm with you. I'm saying is that we see it all.
Yeah.
And I'd like to invite Chief Scudder, before we close public comment, to
Yeah,
maybe make
thank
some
you.
remarks. You're welcome. Thank you. Chief, what we've heard is, everybody agrees that Madison's a beautiful community, but we need more police officers to do more things, so.
Absolutely we do.
Anyway,
And I encourage everyone to apply.
There you
yes.
go.
Obey the laws.
Yeah.
So what do you got? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, you see it all. When you show me, each month, how much time is spent by our officers enforcing traffic safety, I think over the course of the first, few months of this year, it was in the thousands.
Yeah.
And honestly, didn't make a dent in the problem. But just talk about why we need to be safe in our community.
Well, I mean, Madison's changed in the last, even since I've been here, in the last 11 years, the amount of tourism has just grown. So we have a lot more pedestrians, and we need to take steps to make it safe for them, and it's not just food trucks, it's crosswalks. Mindy and I have talked a lot about this intersection, Vaughn Drive. To me, we need to focus on Vaughn Drive and get the traffic slowed down there. So there's a lot of issues going on that we need to take care of, but it's one at a time. But with food trucks, and I think all of you here are here because you follow the rules. I think I recognize a lot of these people. They come in and they get the permits, they follow the rules, but we have a lot that don't. And those are the ones that generally cause issues, I think. But when they do, they're causing issues on Main Street with pedestrians on the sidewalks. It's not huge, but it does block some pedestrian traffic. They take up a lot of parking spots. So then we get called, and yeah, it is a city ordinance that's on the books, and we haven't been enforcing it. But there's a lot of those that we haven't been enforcing that we are taking steps to start enforcing. So those are the biggest.
The magnitude of it is just enormous.
Yeah.
If people would just, follow, just general safety, that would make a big difference.
Questions?
Anyway.
I hear talking.
We need to, please, everything needs to be directed to the Board of Public Works and at the podium if you're gonna make a public comment.
Sorry, Issa again. I just have a couple of things I just want to make sure I get in there before the public comment thing. I know you're up here and I appreciate you being here. Nobody's going to beat you up. I really think that it's important for us to be aware of those issues. And from listening from the meeting, I am amazed at the support system we have back here. Thank you all. I just want to make sure that I say a couple of things for if we're not involved in the new projects meeting, or if we could have a spokesperson like Austin mentioned in that meeting, or somehow get the information to you that we might have an idea. This gentleman was asking about what program to mimic off of for those peddler permits. I just want to mention a couple of things. One, I do know that some cities require us to be 100 feet from another competitor. So say we're doing donuts and coffee, or we're doing hamburgers and hot dogs, or poke bowls for that matter. I wish we had more poke bowls here. That we would be 100 feet from there. So that might be one idea. Another one would be that we're so many feet from an event that's going on, okay? Those we do have to follow specifically in other cities. Another thing is we do have a group chat and a good committee going with the food trucks. We communicate very well with each other. So when you mentioned that people were serving outside on the other side of the street, that person probably would have been spoken to by others, because we don't want one person ruin it for others, okay? So I'm volunteering to be a spokesperson if somebody would like to involve me in these meetings, please. Another thing is, if there are any safety issues, we do want to know it right then and there. And this is great because we do have to follow ordinances. We have to follow laws and regulations. And if we weren't doing so, this is the way to do it. I think what you're getting, Mayor Bob, is that you're getting a knee-jerk reaction from the time limit that no one was aware of certain conversations. So I respect that, and as well as hope you respect our reflection on that. So I don't think, oh, one more thing. If there are, you'd mentioned something about having 20 food trucks the same day in front of 20 different retail stores. That could happen if we really wanted it to happen, but obviously it's going to be a safety issue. So in that, I suggest maybe if there's something to that point, like the Candyland event sidewalk sale, because we are a part of that, that maybe you do limit, like maybe one food truck per block or something like that. So that way it's not congested, because we definitely don't want to hurt anyone. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, you turn your mic on, Coco, please. There's a button right here. There's a button right there at the base. Thank you.
There we go. I'm not gonna pick on him because I know his parents. Anyway, I have two questions that I just want to clarify with your new resolution. So I'm at 118 East Main. I'm in the corridor that you're very specifically speaking about. The way I read your new resolution is that I would no longer be able to get even a permit with your resolution to have a food truck. Am I reading that correctly?
You have to come to Board of Public Works to close the parking spaces and be able to operate there.
Okay, so I was reading that wrong then.
Yep.
I am eligible, but I have to put in
And
a
also make the
permit.
clarification that if it's an approved street closure, that doesn't apply either, right?
Oh, correct,
Yeah,
correct,
okay.
yeah.
Just, again, we're not banning food trucks. We're trying to just do it in a responsible way
So then,
in this corridor.
and I didn't say that.
Yeah.
To be clear. So outside of that corridor, do they still need permits? Other than their peddler's permit and health department?
Technically, they do.
If you're,
I don't know that we're gonna.
again, we're trying to address an area where there's a big concern for safety.
So right
And
now,
it's
you're just
right here.
focusing on that corridor?
Right now, we're not
outside of
saying
it.
don't operate anywhere. We're saying within this, it's mainly this 4-block area.
Right.
We've got to be more cautious about it, but we're not gonna go out there and chase you down if you're, in front of Bicentennial Park on a Saturday.
So, okay, so
Yeah.
to be clear, what you just said was inside that corridor is where you need the permits.
Yes.
Outside of it, Chief Scudder said that there is still an ordinance. I just read the parking ordinance, and it only talked about handicap parking and semis and stuff. Could you tell me where
There's
that is?
two ordinances. There's traffic regulations and a
Okay, I
parking
didn't read the
one.
second one, then I just read the
Yeah.
parking one.
Yeah.
Perfect, I'll get that from him. That clarified a lot for
Okay.
me. I read it as I wasn't allowed to have a parking truck at all, so, I mean, a food truck at all, not a parking truck. Wow, thank you. Easy.
Well, I mean, again, part of this is it's the public meeting. The next Board of Public Works is also gonna be a public meeting, so if we get 10 requests for food trucks, and we're looking at it, and we're like, we may not wanna do that. I'm just saying there's gonna be a process that's in place that we want people to follow. But again, I don't wanna mislead anyone either. What we need to do is focus on the ordinance instead of how do we get a food truck in this 4-block area. It's about getting the ordinance updated.
That's all I've got. Just, I just want everybody to know this is just to try to keep everybody safe. So that's the main goal. If anybody has any questions. Chris, you haven't said anything yet. Nobody?
Thank you, Chief. We will close public comment and we'll go back to the Resolution 2024-B32B. Need a motion to approve in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-32B.
I'll second Carl's motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody, for being here. More work to come. Now we'll move to PACE.
Good afternoon. I have 3 PACE finals for you. Let me get my PowerPoint started. The first one is 811 East First Street. This was a rehabilitation project. The work included door restoration, trim work, chimney work, and paint. They also replaced the windows outside of PACE. This is the before pictures. And then a couple afters. It looks fantastic, and they're asking for the full disbursement of $7,500.
So that house looks remarkable. I'm sorry, did you have a before picture?
Yeah.
Oh. Man, I wish everybody had stayed here to see all the other stuff that we're doing besides, a topic like that. But this is a primary initiative of ours, and I know we have 2 more. So I'll reserve the rest of my soliloquy after that.
The next final is for 705 East Main Street. This is another rehabilitation grant. Their work included tuck pointing and paint. This is the before.
That's very nice.
And the after.
Wow. Love that
The paint
blue.
covers a lot, but they really did a great work of tuck pointing the full building.
Yeah.
And they came in under budget, which is good for both parties. So they're asking for the disbursement amount of $6,752.50.
Now, the wrought iron that was there, I know they look like it's refinished. Was that original? Because that really, it's
I believe so, yeah.
it looks really good. Thank you.
And the last final I have for you is a dilapidated structure at 907 West Main Street. Their work included tuck pointing, paint, windows, and front door. A couple before pictures for you, and then a few
Wow.
afters. Fantastic change there. They're real happy with it, and they also came in under budget. They had received a midpoint, so their final disbursement will be $12,834.12.
So can you go back to the first one? The very first one?
There we go.
Beautiful. And then, so that's the before and the after. And then the other one? Before and after. Wow, and then the one on West Main Street that everybody sees. Look at that. Well,
Great curb appeal on that house.
yeah, I just want to say again, one of the best things we've done is, make improvements to our PACE grant program and really focus on historic preservation, including Paul Byrne Grant Award. But this has had enormous results. It's why people want to be in Madison. And we're grateful that everybody's investing, whether you're investing in property or, mobile food trucks like we were talking earlier, small businesses, services, industry, healthcare. All of that impacts the city. And then the result is we have to also make investments in public safety, in roads, in sidewalks, in incentivizing these investments. And it's working. And so I know we spent a long time today talking about a 4-block corridor, but you know what we were talking about? Why this is America's greatest American Main Street. And with it comes obligations by our part too. Hopefully that everybody will kind of see and feel and understand what we are trying to accomplish today. Great results. I'd make a motion that we approve all 3 PACE finals.
Second that motion.
Any discussion? Comments or questions? Lisa? Since you're the only one here. You're the only one here in the audience.
You are the public today. The 22 East Second, cleaning out the brush, and it's like they're starting to work up there again.
822 down there by your house? Well, I want to thank Tony Sorrells in our street department. I had indicated to him that, we have an active vegetation remediation program in our culverts and particularly Crooked Creek. So they went down there and cleaned all that out, plus the one up on North Walnut Street. That looks really good, and Brian Martin is working on the property right there on the corner. So, long time coming, but again, our investment, our incentives, creates results with other investors and beautifying the entire neighborhood.
Definitely.
Anything else? On unfinished business, any update? That's not.
No, you have two tabled items, and we would like them to both remain on the table.
Leave them on the table.
Thank you.
Even the fall.
Yep, we're working through some issues on that, and hopefully that will be resolved before your next meeting.
Mayor's comments, just reminding everybody, we're here, it's July, it's Regatta Week, festivities every day this week and all weekend long. It's gonna be another busy, awesome time in Madison. Ask everybody to be safe, and we're celebrating the birth of America. No greater celebration than that, other than the birth of Jesus Christ. And then just a reminder too that we're very honored that coaches O'Neill and Madison, the coaches of the 1999 Madison Consolidated High School state baseball champions. It's been 25 years. That's a historic event that we need to continue to celebrate, so we're really honored that they're going to be in our parade. This Friday is our Grand Marshals. What year did you guys graduate? I was class of 81.
1975, the greatest class.
Class of 65, and we had a food truck back in. It was called the Dairy Clipper. And a little child 4 years old there at Eggleston run across the street to go to it and was hit by a car, but just bumped. So that was our first food truck incident.
When the mobile ice cream place would come down Walnut Street,
Ding, ding, ding.
playing in the bell, playing the music and ringing the bells. Every kid would run inside to get a quarter from their mom and dad to go out and get an ice cream.
You must have been in the 80s.
I
went in and got a nickel.
You just put me in a time capsule and sent me back in time.
I just want to say that the city hit it out of the ballpark by getting Coach O'Neill and Coach Madison as Grand Marshals.
Thank you.
Two fantastic people.
Very special.
Yes.
And I'll just end it on this, which is, I think in the first 3 weeks of Crystal Beach, we had around 16,000 people attend Crystal Beach. So it's been enormous summertime fun. Everybody's enjoying. I'll turn it over to my board mates here. Anything else to add?
No, like I said.
Any additional public comment?
I saw some, a lot of ladies in the pool this morning that were doing the water aerobics.
Yep.
I think they were blue because of the cool conditions today, but they were still there.
I was there with my grandson for swimming lessons, and everybody was saying what a great time it was. And Mrs. Ricketts told me that she won the national championship for masters competition. So we got to dig in and get some more information from her on that. But how amazing is it to have a nationals champion, Bob, of the masters living down the street in Madison, Indiana.
Is that right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we also had a fine citizen last week, Mr. Williams, who was an honor guard at Arlington, who passed away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So maybe in the future we might
Yep.
think about him.
Any other public comment? Our next meeting will be Monday, July the 15th. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All fair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I'll see you on July 15th. Have a great week, everyone. Great weekend.